Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. This is the recording for this particular topic, and the title of the topic is informative speech. Alright, okay, as the learning outcomes, okay, I hope that at the end of the particular recording or class, you have the ability to answer all these questions. Number one, what is the goal of an informative speaker? Number two, what are the characteristics of effective information speaking? Number three, what are the techniques for informative speech to be memorable? Number four, what is diverse learning style among audience? And last but not least, what are the major methods of informing in public speaking? Alright, let us look into the idea of informative speech. What is actually informative speech? So, according to scholars, informative speeches answer questions about a topic, such as a question of who, and then a question of when, what, where, how to, why, and also how does. Informative speaking differs from other speech forms such as speaking to persuade, speaking to entertain, or speaking to celebrate, in that your goal is simply to achieve mutual understanding about an object, a person, a place, a process, an event, an idea, a concept, or maybe an issue. For example, if I'm standing in front of you to share with you about the current situation of internet scammer, so I might want to share with you information that related to questions as who are the scammers, when the scammers do their activities, what type of activities that they do in certain way that it can damage or it can harm the internet users, and so on. So it's about a particular information related to object, related to person, event, idea, and so on. And then an informative speech is one whose goal is to explain or to describe facts, to explain or describe truths and principles in a way that stimulates interest, facilitates understanding, and increases the likelihood of remembering among the audience. So let's say I bring the idea of internet scammer just now. So if I want to inform you about the internet scammers and the dangerous events or activities done by them, all right? So I would like to maybe explain facts that related to what type of scammers there in the internet, in the social media, the truths about the dangers brought by those scammers, and also maybe principles of how we want to prevent ourselves from these scammers, internet scammers. So in this sense, I try to stimulate the interest of you about the topic of internet scammers, and then I try to facilitate your understanding about how to protect yourselves, okay, from this internet scammer and others. So what are the characteristics of informative speeches? Your audience will perceive information to be intellectually stimulating when it is new to them and when it is explained in a way that piques their curiosity and excites their interest. For example, things that related to their daily life, things that related to their needs, things that related to their interest. So it means that whatever we try to share with them must be intellectually stimulating. In this sense, it stimulates the understanding, the ideas that they have maybe, and try to compare with what kind of information that we brought in our informative speeches. So we have the issues of depths, and we have the issue of breadth, which means depth goes beyond people's general knowledge of the topic, and at the other side of the coin, breadth examines how the topic relates to associated topics or any other related topics. So if we take an example of a sea, alright, so talking about breadth, it might be when we at the surface of the sea. So as long as we can see to the horizon, so that's what we call as the breadth. Okay, but the depth, okay, those ideas that related to how deep we can go into the particular sea. So it means that depth might be something that we try to zoom in. We try to explain more and more about a particular topic, for example. But breadth, it might be something that we deliver to our audience, but in the same time, we try to reach any other similar ideas related to that one idea. So that's the differences between depth and also breadth. And then the element of relevance. So when we have our informative speech, we must make sure that the relevance is there. So what is relevance? So relevance are statements that clarify how a particular point may be important to a listener throughout our speech. Okay, so we must maybe indicate the relevance at the very beginning of our speech session, in the middle, after several subtopics or ideas, and at the end of our speech session, so that listener will think that whatever we try to share with them are all important, to be listened and to be understood. And then the element of creative speeches yields innovative ideas. Creative informative speeches begin with good research. So it means that we need to be ready before we want to deliver things that related to facts, figures, information, and so on. We must have a good research. Why? Because by having a good research, then we know at what point we want to share the information with our audience, and how many information that we can share with them, and also what type of information that we can just pull out from our draft from our session, and then those pulled out information could be maybe searched by the audience themselves. So it is so important to have what we call as the element of creativity. And then the element of memorable. If your speech is really informative, your audience will hear a lot of new information, but will need your help in remembering what is most important. Effective informative speeches emphasize the specific goal, main ideas, and key facts in ways that help audience members remember them. So for example, when talking about the internet scammer, you might want to start with the definition, start with the current issues, start with several facts and figures, start with some statistics, and then you go on with the danger of having communication with those scammers, the danger of being influenced by those internet scammer, and then you might want to also share about how we want to have our precautious effort to hinder ourselves from being influenced by these internet scammers and so on. So in this sense, you need to mention clearly your specific goal, and then your main ideas, your introduction part, and then the key points, key facts, and end up your speech with a constructive and memorable summary or conclusion. Okay, according to Lucas, in his textbook, there are several techniques for making informative speeches memorable. As you can see in the slide here, there are several techniques including presentational aids. We understood that before this in our previous classes, we understood that presentational aids really help us in terms of delivering our speech better. But in the same time, presentational aids really help the audience to remember better because they are not only listen to our speech, but they also view our presentational aids like PowerPoint presentation, brochure, and so on. So they have maybe 2 or 3 types of what we call as sensory to understand and to remember our information. And then the technique of repetition, transitions, humor, emotional anecdotes, mnemonic, and so on. So you can read this by yourselves, but you need to know that these are the techniques that really helpful for us to deliver our speech, deliver our informative speech, so that our audience can memorize it better and longer. Okay, so this is one example of mnemonics. All right, for example, we want to educate our listeners about the planets, okay, in our sun system. So in our solar system, so we might want to take the first alphabet as a mnemonic, and we try to create maybe a sentence. My very educated mother just served. So it might related to all the planets in the solar system like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn in their particular order. All right, from the nearest to the farthest from the sun. So this is a kind of mnemonic example, okay, that we can use in our informative speech so that we are not skipping any of the important information there. And then maybe this is another mnemonic when we want to have a goal. So we must have the element of smart for our goal. For example, we want to have a goal. So we must have the element of specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-based. So in this sense, smart is a kind of element. Okay, smart is a kind of elements that reflect a good goal. All right. Okay, so in an informative speech, there is one particular issue of diverse learning styles. All right, because the members of our audience differ in how they prefer to learn. Effective informative speeches are developed in ways that address this kind of diversity in terms of learning styles. So rounding the cycle in our session, in our speech session, help us to ensure that we address the diverse learning styles of our audience, and it make the speech understandable, meaningful, and memorable according to the differences of our audiences in terms of their learning style. Some of them, they might simply understand whatever we deliver once. Some of them maybe need to have what kind of repetition. Some of them might need to have further explanation or exploration so that it will help them to understand better. So to help you round the cycle in your session, you might even make note of where and how you address each dimension in your speech outline. Okay, in diverse learning style, we try to juggle the needs of the different needs of our different audiences. So in the sense of appealing, okay, so to appeal to the feeling dimension, so we need to use concrete, clear images, stories, anecdotes, and so on. To appeal to the audience's watching dimension, so we as a public speaker, we can use visual aids, we can use appropriate body movement or gestures, and also expressions. To appeal to the audience's thinking dimension, We use clear macrostructure and also relevant data to support the main data that we have. And then to appeal to the maybe doing dimension. So it means that we need to have the physical kind of reflection or physical kind of activity. So we use demonstrations and we use hands-on features. Then we can fulfill the doing dimension of our audience. Okay, according to scholars, all right, there are several methods of informing. We have describing, defining, comparing and contrasting, narrating, and also demonstrating. So the method of description, it is a method used to create an accurate, clear, vivid verbal picture of an object, geographic feature, setting, event, person, or image. So this method, according to scholars, usually answers an overarching who, what, or where questions. And then in terms of definition or defining, it is a method that explains the meaning of something. You can easily define a word or idea by classifying it and differentiating it from similar ideas by explaining its derivation or its history, by explaining its use or function, or by using a familiar synonym or antonym. Next, comparison and contrast is a method of informing that focuses on how something is similar to each other and how something is different from any other things. And then we move to narration as one of the methods of informing. It is a method of informing that recounts an autobiographical or biographical event, a myth, a story, anecdotes, or some other account. Characteristics of a good narration include a strong storyline, use of descriptive language, and details that enhance the plot, the people, the setting, the events, effective use of language, dialogue, pacing that builds suspense, and also strong voice that we use as a good public speaker in informative speech. Next is demonstration, whereby, as what I told you just now in the previous slide, that this is related so much to the physical activity. So it is a method of informing that shows how something is done, displays the stages of a process, or depicts how something works. So in a demonstration, as a public speaker, we organize the steps from first to last so that our audience will be able to remember the sequence. Effective demonstrations really require considerable practice, because practice makes perfect. So with that, I conclude this particular recording with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Thanks. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.